There's a line out of the movie Pulp Fiction when Ving Rhames says, "I'm gonna go medieval on you." Remember that line? And that's what they did because I would look at some of these punishments and I would think, how did you even think of doing that to someone? Putting a metal plate on somebody's face so they couldn't eat, couldn't talk, starved to death. Chains around their neck so they couldn't lay down, bells on them so you could hear everywhere they go. It's just unbelievable. I can't explain it.
And this is the thing I struggle with also is that I understand psychologically they dehumanize them, right?
Right,
Identify them as animals.
right.
But you aroused sexually by them, and there are a lot of sexual interactions and relationships. So that's the part I can't figure out in regards to like, I know you try to justify it on paper, but like you were intimate with these people, not just rape, like actual relationships. So like, how do you navigate all that?
I don't know. You have to dig down in the well of Dr. Francis Cress Welsing to explain and the color theory and it's really amazing the lust. And a lot of times we just talk about the women being raped, but then there were men raped and children raped. We just see lust. Other than intimate relationships that they had with each other, like maybe a Thomas Jefferson and the Sally Him, it was just unadulterated lust. They just saw them as an opportunity to sexualize, and didn't care about it. That's one thing. Speaking of Frances Cress Welsing, when she talks about the origin of the MF word, you know, here you are being raised by a black woman, she suckled you on her breast and then you become a man and then you rape her. Yeah, you rape. How do you do that? How do you separate that in your mind? I don't know.
What was the significance of Pennsylvania's 1780 Abolition Act, and what did freedom truly mean in this context?
Freedom meant that you weren't really free. And it's not just Pennsylvania. Well, Pennsylvania was one of the first states, colonies slash states to have that type of law. But we see that throughout. You'll see that throughout the Caribbean. You'll see that in some places in Africa. And what they would do was little caveats. Actually, it worked against the slaves. For example, it said that your child that is born after 1780 would be free. Okay, so you have this child that's free and you're still a slave, all right? So you don't get any provisions for that child. How do you feed that child? Right, right. So a lot of times it worked against them. So it was a system of what they call gradual abolition. And the British came up with the term apprenticeship where they say we just can't set you free. You're gonna have to learn how to be free. And how do you do that? You have to work for a certain number of years before you are free. All right. So the way that law worked in Pennsylvania, it really only benefited a small number of people, but it extended the time that people were already enslaved in that period. And I thought you were going to ask about the police because Philadelphia is very
We're gonna get to that.
yeah, because your first police force, once you you have these free blacks floating around, you got to have somebody to police them, to watch them, all right? And they didn't know who was free and who was a slave. So they would just arrest these black people if they were out past the curfew.
You needed employment, needed to show
You
for
would
employment.
well, you wouldn't even have anything. Your master would have to come and get you, or you would stay there, or you would be flogged or whipped in public.